Welcome again back to Aging with Grace 55 Plus. And you're about to meet a really interesting guest, Aaron Murphy. He's the owner of ADM Architecture and founder of Forever Home. And he's been specializing in the new longevity housing solutions, which is so critical to where we are in our country right now. Without further delay, Aaron Murphy, welcome to Aging with Grace. How are you today?
I'm good, Dale. Thanks for having me today.
Well, I look forward to having you today. And before we get into that part, I've got to ask you this. Living outside of Seattle, I presume it either has rained or it has not rained or is about to rain. Where are we on that spectrum, buddy?
You just keep thinking that so you don't move here. I'm okay. You know what? It's beautiful 3 months out of the year, and we don't tell anybody about it.
So it's a great secret. It's a great secret. I love that. So, Aaron, and I take this in all humility, I do welcome you to my podcast, Aging with Grace 55 Plus, but you've been addressing this whole idea of empowering housing on stages from Chicago to Tokyo. How'd you get into that, and what exactly is empowering housing?
Sure. That to me is the positive spin on the idea of aging in place solutions that keep us autonomous, independent, of free choice related to, this age now that we're going to live from 50 to 100.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? Not to be an alarmist, but you said somewhere in your biography and your materials that basically housing changes have not changed since the GI Bill. And
Right.
therefore, we're going to have to start adjusting our housing, but we're not ready for it given the sheer numbers of people who are continuing to age, especially after 2011. Walk us through those numbers and how we're not ready for people to age in place, Aaron.
Yeah, so my theory right there is that we're about to tip the scales and we're about to have more 65-year-old plus than we are 18 or under. That has never happened in the history of the world. So
Wow.
why are we still designing houses that are 2 stories with stairs on postage stamp lots? I don't have time to talk it all the way through from the developer with 10 acres of forest land to the
Mm-hmm.
point that you're being offered keys, but there's a lot of issues right there. And having a 2 story with stairs and narrower hallways and thinner doors is just the beginning of the problem.
Mm-hmm. And is this the beginning of this problem? Is that what has inspired you to get into this niche marketing of designing housing for aging in place?
Yeah, well, I learned this along the way. What I actually got inspired by, first of all, was my grandmother going from 5'9", traveling the world, playing bridge at his master's level and loving
Wow.
retirement when I went off to UW for college at architecture school. When I got home, she was 5'2", trapped in a hospital bed in the
Oh.
main floor of a split level and didn't know Carl's name, her husband. So for
Oh.
her, osteoporosis and Alzheimer's. For me, the architecture student, I wasn't ready to learn about grandma's medical or hygiene or any, but a split level home was broken. That's what I saw. Stairs
Mm-hmm.
to a shower, stairs to a car, stairs to laundry. Her house did not work for her as soon as her needs changed.
Mm. And that's not just your mom, but that's also adult children and
Yep.
across the board.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what advice do you give those in our generation in terms of preparing forever home for mom and dad? What do we do?
Well, same advice I think you hope that your parents will take on early enough to discuss so that they can stay autonomous and independent with choice.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody falls and breaks a hip, and I get a phone call at the architecture firm, mom's in surgery, then she's got rehab, she'll be home in 6 weeks, her house needs to be different.
Wow.
That's lipstick on a pig. That's a band-aid on a gaping wound. We need more planning than that. We need more foresight. And
Mm-hmm.
70% of what I would offer is called universal design. It just works better for everybody. Your 4-year-old and my 84-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
The latter third, or 30%, I'd say, is about us peeling the onion back, having real conversations about medical history. Did everyone get Parkinson's on dad's side? Did everybody have foot neuropathy on mom's side? We can start to plan for that, but it takes time to plan.
Well, what I like about you, Aaron, in our subsequent conversations off mic before we began this interview, is that you share with me that you actually have four aging parents. So, what I like about what you and ADM Architecture is doing is this is practical application, not what you've read, but actually what you're living. And I dare I say you've been doing what for the last 15 years? Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the poster child of the sandwich generation right now, Dale. I have four teenagers and I have four parents from 73 to 82. What
Oh,
I did not know is that I would be at the height of my career and I'd be the dumbest person in the room if you asked my family, right? I got four teenagers that know it all, and I got four parents that think I'm a kid at 50 and don't know anything.
oh,
It's
that's
brutal.
good. Tough audience. It's a tough
Tough
audience
audience
for
at
Aaron.
home. That's right. That's why I come out here and do it, because people actually listen.
Well, people have been listening, as I said, on these stages, nationally and internationally. So that suggests that you've encountered some particular challenges to making these changes for residential aging in place. What have been some particular challenges that you would like to share with us today?
Yeah, I think for our short time together, my biggest challenge is the challenge of denial. It's psychology 101. You are not a stat. You don't believe you'll be a stat until you're a stat.
Hmm.
That's right. I'll never
Yeah.
get in a car crash. I'll
Mhm.
never have diabetes. I'll never have high blood pressure till somebody tells you you do.
Yeah.
So, but again, so much of what we can do with home design nowadays, and we have forever home stock plans that take into consideration what kind of house might you want from 50 to 100 years old.
Wow. From 50 to 100 years old.
Well, the reason I say that is back to your comment earlier about the GI Bill,
Hmm.
right? Our 1900, we were living to 47.
Right.
Now we're living to 78. People that are
Yikes.
born today are told they'll live to 120.
Hmm.
Medical and technological advance. Why
Wow.
isn't housing changing to accommodate what we know is our future?
Hmm. And I gather those designs, and I want to give you a plug for your website now. Is it foreverhome-us.com? Is that where people
That's
can start seeing some of those designs?
Yep, the homeowner can go there and look at house plans, and we've got a number of those different kinds, minis, mids, grands, kind of in
Mhm.
the size range. Yep, you can go there and get started looking around.
And I like one of the mantras. Once you get there and you start looking around, it says, "Help people stay where they love and thrive where they live." That's just I don't think that's just something you toss off your cuff. That's something all of us, as part of the American dream, I submit, have evolved to. This we want to stay where we love and thrive where we live. You're helping people do that, yes?
I am. And, our architecture tagline is listening, solving, creating architecture without the ego. And my point to
Mm.
bring it up right now is it takes a team. It
Hmm.
takes the adult children. It might take your financial planner. It might take a mortgage person. It might take a food delivery person or a transportation person. But if we're planning and we pull together that thriving in place dream team, which Forever Home as a site, my whole thing with as an architect is I play quarterback and concierge.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
I can drive the bus. I have the golden Rolodex. Everybody's only 2 phone calls away. We
Uh,
can put a team together that can keep you home 10 or 15 years longer than not planning.
You said something interesting. And by the way, for our listeners, I hope you're enjoying this interview as much as I am with Aaron Murphy. He's the owner of ADM Architecture and founder of Forever Home, and the licensed architect that's been actively involved in aging in place for 15 years, specializing in the new longevity housing solutions. Aaron, one of the things from my notes on our conversation, you said, is it's not a matter of just simply slapping up grab bars. You have to
Right.
know, for example, is a person right-handed? Are they left-handed? So just don't go out to a do-it-yourself store, grab some handbars, and think you're helping out, because you're not. You're just putting a Band-Aid on it. Yes or no?
True, true. And by the way, there's not blocking between the vertical studs where you need to put your grab bar. But I'm
Yikes.
glad you brought this up because one person I forgot on the Thriving in Place Dream Team is the occupational therapist. Okay. I have a code book that tells me, because I do I've done 2 million square feet of commercial buildings.
Wow.
Okay, that code book tells me where to put a grab bar in a bank bathroom, but it doesn't tell me whether you're right side strong, left side. Women are stronger in the legs and hip, men are stronger in the chest and shoulders. Now we're down to personal solutions for you.
You know, and when you talk about personal solutions for you, I like the fact it's not one size fits all. Because if we make this investment, excuse me, if we make this investment, it's going to hit our nest egg rather hard, right? And so
Oh,
I don't want
let's
something that's going to be out of the box. I want it custom made, and that's what you guys specialize in.
Yeah. And as far as that one time fits all, but it is an investment. That's exactly what I'm telling people to do, Dale. I'm saying invest in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Invest in your parents. Most of the people 50 years old say, we don't even want your inheritance. Just get your latter third of life correct for what you want, mom and dad. And so, to your point about it being an investment, we have to talk about the cost of if not, because relativity goes a long way. The other light bulb besides my grandma on her split level, I bought a car off Craigslist. 50 or two 63-year-olds brought me a car. I was like, oh, whose is this? Mom's 92 years old, finally gave up the keys. Cool. Where does she live? Assisted living down the road. Personal question. Don't answer if you don't want, but I'm doing some research. What did that cost you? Their answer was 150 grand out of pocket and 10 grand a month. When I'm on stage, Dale, I say, raise your hand if you have a $10,000 mortgage. If you do, I'm adoptable. I'd love to see your house. You do not have a $10,000 mortgage. When I give you the relativity of staying in denial till the fall, then I talk to you about investing in yourself, even if it's $150,000 remodel with a home equity line of credit to put an elevator in. Okay, that or 15 months in assisted living and then you're broke. Which one makes more sense?
Oh my gosh, the old business model of cost ratio, you know, it's very logical which way you want to go. Aaron, I guess it's never too late, right? I mean, I guess you can always start now to create the benefit that you need. But I guess what was the old saying? The best time to plant a tree was yesterday. The second best time is today, right?
Yep.
Let's apply that to your industry, my friend.
Please get started. Please start the conversation. Start it with your folks. Start it with your partners. Start it with your trusted advisors, whether it's your elder law attorney or your financial planner, or let's have that conversation and know that an architect, myself, a team member, an occupational therapist, bring the team together. Let's start that conversation. Dale, I'm in a conversation right now with my father-in-law.
Yeah.
And we've been asking him for 8 years to meet with an elder law attorney. He's got 5 properties in 5 different states and not a single LLC. And I mean, I finally said to him, I said, if you want us to fight when you're dead, which is your biggest fear, keep not planning and don't ever write anything down. I mean, you have to find a way to get through to them that think about your legacy. What do you want to leave us? Do you want it to be easy? We will follow your plan, but please have a plan.
But please have a plan. And I think as part of that, Aaron, as we go to our close, I think it's very important to know that you also are regulated or certified, I should say, by the National Home Builders Association. And I gather is there a certain certification that consumers should look for that folks like you uniquely have?
Yeah, good question. So aside from being a licensed architect in Washington State and nationally, we can get reciprocity. We're certified, it's called CAPS, a certified aging in place specialist. And there are OTs that have it. There are general contractors and remodelers that have it. It's a 3-day class. And Dale, actually, the rest of what we're doing, I've become synonymous in a tri-county area with the term aging in place. Now I'm wishing there were 1,000 of me in the US. And so Forever Home is actually doing business coaching for OTs, GCs, remodelers, architects, designers, because I want to show you how to become an expert and go help a bunch of people in your community.
That's so good. And you know what, Bob? And I think that's where we're going to end it at, Aaron, because this is not something that you're trying to hold to yourself. Oh, I know. I was going to ask you a question a second ago, which is this before I get to my closing.
Mhm.
You've spoken on stages internationally. How
Yeah.
do international audiences react to your idea of a forever home for mom and dad, Eastern culture versus Western culture?
Fun question, and maybe too long of an answer. I'll try to shorten it.
Okay.
Going to Japan was a fabulous experience. So we actually filmed a TV show at the International Home Health Expo. What
Wow.
I loved about going to Japan is that they are 15 years older per capita than we are. They started having to guinea pig the product R&D solutions. The showrooms there, Honda and Toyota have 7 ways to get in and out of the front seat of your van in a wheelchair. We only
Oh,
know one, right? The cutout.
yeah.
Okay, so they're ahead. It's a fantastic thing to think about. Where do you go and study? But again, I play quarterback. You might know about the spoon that shakes to offset Parkinson's so that you can actually eat cereal and not spill your milk. But how do all these products go together? That's what we're doing at Forever Home.
I love it. And in conclusion, I love the fact, Aaron, that you're not holding this information to yourself. You're trying to spread the gospel, if you will, nationally. So for those who want to get more information or reach out to you, please share your email address or however else you want, or website, however you want people to reach out to you.
For sure. Yeah. Again, the website foreverhome-us.com, or you can email me, Aaron, Aaron, at foreverhome-us.com.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for your time. I truly appreciate it. For our listeners, you've heard from Aaron Murphy, absolutely incredible owner of ADM Architecture and founder of Forever Home, spreading the gospel about aging in place for 15 years. Keep up the good work, my friend. We'll check in on you again in the future. Have a great day, Aaron. Bye-bye.
Sounds like a plan. Peace out. Thank you.
For our listeners, Amy Arnette has returned from DPL Financial Partners to discuss the financial challenges around caregiving. And you'll remember last time we talked about long-term care planning, right? And we said something that I want to remind you of. It doesn't matter where you are on the continuum of care. At some point, you're going to need long-term care. And so the question is, how do you make that adjustment? How do you make that as easy as possible, as affordable as possible? And therefore, we thought it'd be great to introduce you to Amy Arnette, who's the director from DPL Financial Partners, who returns to discuss financial challenges around caregiving. Amy, how are you? And welcome back to Aging with Grace 55 Plus.
I'm doing great, Dale. Thanks for having me back. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. And I love the fact that you have 36 years of experience in the insurance industry with a focus on long-term care and disability. And so I thought that would be perfect in terms of caregiving. And so I want to pose a question to our listeners for you to answer. Do you want to be your parent's child or caregiver?
Yeah, and I absolutely do not want to be my parents' caregiver. I've experienced it with both parents,
Mhm.
and the parents don't like it either. There's a bit of pride that's taken away when you're having to provide that care as a
Mhm.
child. Some basic stuff might be okay, but when you get into having to change bed sheets and diapers and catheters, and it gets personal, you
Mhm.
know, you don't want your child doing that, and I don't want to have to do that for my parent. I want to maintain that father daughter, mother daughter relationship.
The basic dignity, if you will, of the
Hmm.
sibling relationship with mom or dad. I understand that, despite the fact you have 36 years of experience, we're going to touch on that in a minute. You have a personal story on this point that you would like to share as we delve into caregiving around your mom, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So mom, when we started seeing that she couldn't live on her own, we do have long-term care insurance on her, but first we thought, well, she's still pretty independent. So she moved in with my brother.
Hmm.
And, you know, sh- that started to pose a problem because of the stairs in his home that she had to go up and down in order to move anywhere. So,
Hmm.
and she had a fall or two downstairs.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So that was the start of even more. So then she went to live between my sisters.
Hmm.
And it finally came to a point when my sister looked at me and said, I don't want to be her caregiver anymore.
Oh,
I want to be her child. It's time for her to move into a facility. So it was, it was tolling on the sibling that was caring for her in their home. It was tolling on my mother. It wasn't her best life that she could be living because of the limitations you have in your home versus the atmosphere that an assisted living facility can provide, or a nursing facility.
Well, despite that, I understand that Genworth indicates that 40% of caregivers are children. 40%. Which poses all sorts of challenges with working moms, working dads, trying to care for parents. How does that work in terms of planning for caregiving as we age?
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And I think initially that's where it starts. Because it seems like you can take care of your parent at home, whether you move them in or, they stay in their home and you're making run-bys. But what the problem is it takes a toll, and it takes a toll on everyone, because it's not just care at home. You've got to worry about transportations to doctors. And when we all work, it's an interruptive of our schedules and our life with our family. So, it's ideal to make sure you plan ahead. Typically, you need to start considering it in your early to mid 50s and take action prior to 60. So you need to start planning for it, either with your own assets, if you're ready to spend down all your money on that type of a facility and not pass anything down to heirs, or look at having insurance so you have that dedicated benefit for long-term care insurance.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and needs is what I meant to say.
Yeah, and needs. I think there's a lot of guilt that already goes with children having that role reversal to care for your parents. And so now you're challenged with also spending down the assets of the family, which maybe the mother or father wants a position as an inheritance, if not for the kids, for whomever. And so you're trying to protect the assets as we're doing this. And by the way, I just remembered this. There's a wonderful series called Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver. If you guys want to Google that, it's three sisters who were on one of my previous shows. And they talk about that. They talk about the guilt that goes with that, Amy. And so, that's very real. And it sounds like from your experience, it's very palatable as well. I can't underscore that enough.
Yeah, and my mom is now in a facility. And thankfully, because of her long-term care insurance, she's in a nice facility and it's close to home. And we all have our dedicated days that we make sure that we visit her or get her out to do her hair or whatever it might be. And I can tell you, my nights are Wednesdays, and I hate leaving every Wednesday night because I feel guilty that I'm leaving her behind. And she still feels like she could live independently when really she can't live independently. But it's a guilty, as a child, you feel awful guilty. But what's reassuring is that she's in a good place. And she can afford it because of her long-term care insurance, and they're taking good care of her.
Well, because of the long-term care insurance that you mentioned, but yet caregiving will still impact the family, especially like financially, right? Because I understand that 66% of caregivers paying for care with their own savings and retirement funds. 66% of caregivers paying for care with their own savings and retirement funds. That negatively impacts the family resources.
Oh, absolutely, it does. It negatively impacts the parents' resources, and if the parent doesn't have a whole lot of resources, the kids are dipping into their resources just to help,
which then amps up the tension. Yes.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it especially if between husband and wife, it can amp up the tension because, wife is saying, I'm going to help mom with this and I'm going to spend this money. But husband's saying, well, and wait a minute, what about your other siblings? Or, why are we having to spend our nest egg for this? So it can cause a whole lot of complications, caregiving can, and a lot of people just don't realize the impact it could have. Ultimately, initially it doesn't seem bad, but it's going to progress. And as it progresses, it's going to be, it could be a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the you mentioned marriages. And again, Genworth reports that 72% of caregivers are married or in long-term partnerships. And then of that number, that 72%, 43% said it negatively affected their relationship. 43% said it negatively affected their relationship with their partner. And so against that backdrop, Amy, and again, with your 36 years of experience in this area, what other options do people have that we have not touched on, perhaps in terms of caregiving, that you would recommend as given your history with DPL FP?
Yeah, you know, if you don't want to impose on your children, you know, there's facilities out there that provide home health care, that individuals could access, or they can move into a retirement community. I've seen a lot of, my aunt actually out in California is in a retirement community, but it has the stage of assisted living and then nursing home care.
Okay.
So, you know, you can prepare ahead of time. But again, you know, you've got to have the financial resources to afford it. And as you graduate into care, you know, it's going to become more expensive. And if you don't have those resources and you don't have the insurance, then you've got to fall back on Medicaid. And Medicaid's going to dictate where you go and what kind of care you get.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, last time we talked a lot about long-term care planning, I was talking about an article I read about from Modernize, which talked about 75% of Americans, of folks who are aging, want to age in place. And so ideally, if you cannot age in place, then you want to land in a place like your aunt is blessed to be in California. But yet that's still an expensive proposition, Amy. So talk about it both ways as we go to our close. Give us a general idea of how much per month on average someone would pay for a long-term care facility, and ideally how preparing early financially can offset that cost, which is coming.
Yeah, I can definitely speak for the state of Kentucky, or at least in the Louisville area, because of my mom's facility. And right now, and I would say that her place is not considered like the creme de creme, you know, but it's a nice place. It's a good middle of the road place. And her cost per month is $7,500. And that's room and board and care. That doesn't cover medications. It doesn't cover TV, hair appointments, you know, all of those ancillary. So, and thankfully, because if it wasn't for her insurance, she'd be on Medicaid, and a Medicaid place is, I mean, as much as individuals don't, or facilities want to say the care isn't different, it is a completely different atmosphere. And I'll tell you real quick, when we first put mom in a facility, we put her in a place that she could afford out of pocket for about 9 months. And then she would have been completely broke and completely dependent on the Medicaid system. And it was around $3,500 a month. It was assisted living. But I can tell you, walking into that facility, the residents that were in there most of them were pretty bedridden or needed some severe assistance. And the atmosphere was more institutional. Just everything about it was. So once we got her approved, we moved her into a nicer assisted living facility, and it was more like walking into an apartment complex. So, you know, financially, because of that insurance, we didn't have to worry about spending down what she has. And now she has money to buy Christmas gifts for all the grandkids every year. You know, she can buy birthday presents. She can get her hair done because, you know, with that long-term care insurance, she's got a little bit of a nest egg that we've built up to help for those kind of things.
That's so good. And that's $7,500 a month. While you say it's not the creme de la creme, that could still negatively, like a crater a family's financial situation, causing more stress. So we're not trying to frighten anyone, Amy. We're just simply sharing information about the reality of long-term care planning on our last episode, on this one about caregiving. This is such an important topic. I really encourage our listeners to spend more time speaking with Amy, as my wife and I have. She's very knowledgeable after 36 years of experience in the insurance industry with a focus on life, long-term care, and disability income insurance. And in full disclosure, dplfinancial.com is one of the sponsors of my podcast series, Aging with Grace 55 Plus. We appreciate them and Amy. In conclusion, we certainly appreciate you. Thanks for stopping by and have a great day. I'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Dale. See ya.
Bye. I was recently reading an article which was quite inspirational, and I want to share it with you as we conclude today's episode of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. The article said, "The talent of success is nothing more than doing what we can do well, and doing whatever you do without a thought of fame." Doing whatever you do without a thought of fame. And so when you hear this following story of a gentleman, you're going to understand what it means to toil in relative obscurity without a thought of fame, because he immigrated to the United States in 1922, this former Soviet engineer and also a pilot. And when we talk about 1922, and then we talk about him making his invention in 1944, don't tune me out, because however young you are, chances are you've used this product called AMPEX. AMPEX is a videotape, which used his initials, which is AMP. And then at the end, he added X for excellence, which you're going to find out in a few moments what his name is. Because you see, he premiered his machine at a National Broadcasting Industry Convention in 1956, beating out venerable RCA, which was also working on the same technology, working on the same invention. And so as he introduced his product, the demand for video tape recorders exceeded all of his expectations. And within a dozen years, the value of his company had doubled to more than $220 million. Matter of fact, the machine was so popular, it was used in Moscow in the trade booth for AMPEX for the debate between Nixon and Khrushchev in July of 1959. Again, don't tune me out, young folks, because you've used this product, I promise you. Because you see, the talent of success is nothing more than doing what you can do well. And this is what this gentleman did without a thought of fame. Because you see, his invention, by the time he died, remember that his company had more than doubled to $220 million in 12 years. Well, by the time he passed away in 1980, his company was valued at more than $550 million, which is $500 million a year. So who was this person, right? Who was this person who later licensed his technology to a rising company you may have heard of? You may not. You probably have, unless you're living under a rock. The company was called Sony, and it was bringing its video product to market as form of a video cassette recorder in 1975. So who was he? Who was this gentleman from Moscow, an engineer, immigrated to the United States in 1922, invented his product in 1944, founding the company of AMPEX, which was using his initials AMP with EX added as excellence. His name was Alexander M. Panyatov. Alexander M. Panyatov. Forgive me for butchering that Russian, but Panyatov. Alexander M. Panyatov. And there you have it. While his name, Alexander M. Panyatov, was not a household name, but because he was doing the best he could, whatever he wanted to do without a thought of fame, his company AMPEX was formed. And now you know the rest of the story of an amazing American brand called AMPEX, which all of us has touched all of our lives, and which, as I promised you, all of us have used, right? So this ends season 3, episode 11. I got excited there. I can't believe we're season 3, episode 11 of my podcast series, Aging with Grace 55 Plus. I so appreciate you tuning in and supporting it. I want to say thanks to our guest for this episode, which is sponsored by AARP Kentucky and DPL Financial Partners, which introduced you, by the way, to Amy Arnette. She's a director with DPL Financial Partners. Thank you so much, Amy, for stopping by to discuss discuss caregiving, which absent planning can crater personal or family finances. More information is available by including our contact information at dplfp.com, delivering value for advisors and clients alike. We open with Aaron Murphy from ADM Architecture, and he is recognized again as an expert in aging in place home designs. I hope you appreciate his passion for modifications and assessments for your forever home. Visit his website, what a name, foreverhome-us.com. Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate you, buddy. And also remember, aging is not a time of diminishment, but this is a time of application taught by some of our best teachers, including experience. And now the final thought from James Clear, author of the book Atomic Habits. James writes, "Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy." So until next time, this has been your host, Dale Josie of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. Please visit my website, awg55.com, to listen to past episodes of Aging with Grace 55 Plus, including purchasing a deck of 35 oversized playing cards for deeper, more meaningful conversations with the seniors in your life or community.